Who pays for LoSAP? Does the
So, speaking to our lawyer, he believes that the way the law is written, the village would be lucky enough that the LoSAP could roll into the district. A lot of them, depending on how it goes, you have to dissolve and start fresh. The problem with that is that if you dissolve it, it's frozen where it is, and the village board is liable for everything that's in there. He believes the statute is written so, in our case, it would roll into, so then the village would no longer have that that LoSAP.
Possibly.
Possibly, no, and
Possibly.
he said
Okay.
what he's read, and again, these are the things that you would have to prove, or he would have to prove.
And the new cancer insurance.
Would be, you would have nothing to do with any fire-related bills, everything would pass on to the district, as long as it can be proven out by the lawyers. And again, we're not saying we want to go that way, we're just saying, this is a healthy conversation about,
Investigating the alternative.
yeah, how, because,
Right.
maybe this is something that we wait until we get in trouble and go to, I don't know, for you guys, it's building costs, for us, it's, later down the road costs. We're fine at least this year, but, we have, like I said, we have things that are outdated that,
Which we're obviously.
are coming into the non-compliance stages.
We're very interested in
Sure.
getting that list. One thing that strikes me is that if the starting budget is 250K, just assume that for a moment, and you're at a 2% tax cap. Compare the cost of doing business that way versus a 2% tax cap on a $1.5 million budget, which is what we have now. It's 1.6 or something like that.
Sure, but the town,
We certainly have to.
right, in the town and the village, you ask, hey, keep your requests under the cap. So that 1.5 is the cap that the whole village gets,
Yes.
and it wouldn't go to us, nor should it. We wouldn't ask them that. It obviously being a problem, you could use it that way, but our operating budget doesn't vary much, and we do get audited every year. Just because you don't see it doesn't mean we're not following the laws. So we are fiscally sound, we are fiscally responsible, and we do get audited. We don't ever anticipate, and we do, like if that's, this fund balance that we have, that's where we picked it up. The 1 year that the law changed with the bailout system, Seth was the mayor at the time, and there was money, because that was a one-time heavy hit, he helped us pay for that, and we're grateful, so it's coming down the road where you will have to, or may end up with more insight into our budget, but to be honest with you, it can't be any fun for you, because as you say, you don't know what and why, and you're going to end up doing a lot of work as, what is this, why do they need it, and you're going to be spending time with your lawyer, do they really need this, and hopefully, we're going to explain it to you,
If
but.
you don't go to a district, then we need to do that work, whether we like it or not. Okay,
Let
so
me
the
ask-
two alternatives I see,
Explain.
is one question on the district. Okay, you're saying, and I didn't realize this, if Phillipstown is the one that's going to appoint the commissioners, or whatever, who's to say then that Nelsonville wants to be part of the district or not? Or how does that fall into play?
So our attorney said, I'll start with you. You are, if you.
We
think it's-
dissolve, they're no longer part of our system, and now they
Right,
can
so,
go out
so
and.
if you agree to allowing the Cold Spring Fire Company to enter in a joint fire district, then the village of Nelsonville would have to also agree, the village of Cold Spring would have to agree, and the town would have to agree to say, yes, we're willing to create this district. And then it would go to, and then the town having to be the lead agent, because two villages, they have to have either contractual or a village fire department. They can't be they can't be a district. They have to be a village or contracted. So the town would then.
So we present, just hypothetically,
absolutely.
we're presenting this budget that's gonna crank up Nelsonville's quite a bit, double that. They will then say, vote it down, then what happens?
But they're gonna need fire protection.
Well, that's what we
Right,
got
so
into,
yeah.
that's what happened the last time.
Yeah.
They didn't care about whether they had fire protection, and we couldn't force them to have fire protection. So that's what you're gonna be up against.
Right.
They're gonna need.
Well, no, that's what the.
Because the argument was, well, if there's a fire in Nelsonville, you guys aren't gonna go up there because they don't have protection,
Yeah.
and that's what they used against us.
Right. And again, you make,
So if the district, so what I'm saying is if we do to go to a district, Nelsonville opts out, then the cost, whatever your total cost is, doesn't have Nelsonville included, which is another bang for Cold Spring residents.
Which is the same thing we face now if Nelsonville
Opts
says,
out.
no, we don't, like we just had.
Agreed.
You know, we still have the $120,000 operating budget that's gotta be carried by somebody.
Right.
So it's
Right.
gonna fall on the village.
yeah, so if the budget's that high and they choose no, it's probably a bad idea anyway. I mean, cause you know yourself, if we go from 120 to 250 in the first year,
I'll vote against
our own department's gonna vote against it.
We
You
live
know,
here too.
You know,
Right.
and you should say that's a bad idea in Nelsonville. You know, the thing is if you could take what our near budget is now with only minor increases based on what the law requires us, the selling point to them is you know, in their mind they get equal representation. You know, and it comes in around at what they're at now, and then you know they also get to not have to fight with you and vice versa, and then you know then it becomes it's all equal. But you know, so our department decided, hey, we can't do anything without a fact-finding mission. So we contacted the lawyer. The lawyer said, well, you really can't do anything without the village board. So our fact-finding mission started with saying, hey, you got to let them know, and this is where we're at. And again, like we said, we're torn day by day. You know, as taxpayers, you know, hey, if the 5 commissioners could hate us, you know, immensely because
Or love
it
you.
well, no,
Let's
well,
hope so.
exactly. No, right.
Right.
And if you look at history, usually you go, it benefits the fire department. But it doesn't, you know, this village is pretty active politically, and, you know, we can you can end up with 5 very, very incredibly fiscally responsible people that aren't fire department friendly, and the answer could be always no from them. You know, so it's not without risk, and again, the commissioners have the last say. You know, we have an internal problem, we handle it internally. You know, when commissioners can say, no, that person will be, you know, brought up on charges, and there's nothing we can do about it. Where now we can say, no, we're all just gonna kind of kiss and make up, and there's no gonna be a problem. So there's a lot of risk of a fire department that operated since 1896 changing their rules to being not in charge anymore. You know, and you know that, you know, legally you kind of have that ability to just control us, but it's not worth it. You know, so you know, it's a struggle for everybody, but this is our starting point, and you know, it's maybe look, this isn't a good idea, or maybe, hey, let's look a little closer at the numbers and say let's next step, or you know, whatever the case may be. It's just the fear is we have a healthy fund balance, and we know we are not creating the money that we used to. And the truck we bought in 2000 was $200,000. The truck we bought in 2010 was $750,000. You know, that didn't double. I mean, that's just crazy. We you know, fire department stuff, as you know, and anything this municipality tied to gets extra money charged to it because they can. You know, so we're just fearful of being one day saying, we got no more money and the village has to pay for it. You know, it's not fair to you or us to go down that road because you're like, well,
Because I think the one thing we're really missing, is that things are gonna cost, and what they're gonna cost, and what I think we've worked on pretty hard is being able to say, this is why it's costing this, and this is why it's gonna cost you. So if your budget has to double, and that's what it's gonna take to double, I'm just saying, if it does double, and I'm not saying, if you look at it and say that's 200,000 compared to other districts, or what that's, you know, percentage-wise, what that's gonna be, well, maybe you're getting a deal, and this is what it costs. I mean, there's a point where something's gonna cost X amount. If you need fire protection, it's gonna cost this. If it's gonna cost you another $50,000 this year to run your budget, and that's what it costs, then that's why we need the information. So then we can say, this is what these guys are up against, and this is what they're doing. If we get a budget that doesn't say anything, it's a rollover, I can't make the argument for that. I think we could all make an argument if the truck, you know, got wrecked or didn't get, I don't know, just pick any hypothetical that you need 50,000 to run your thing. Now, if we can't go to the public and say, this is where we're at, this is the scenario, we need 50,000, and if they, you know, we have to find the money. So if it's not sustainable when working with us, it's not going to be sustainable for the same reason of working as a district, because you're still going to have to collect so much money, and it's going to be the burden on so many people. There's a definite number in either way. So, you know, the sustainability isn't one thing. It's like the cost of fire protection is going up. This is why, and this is what you guys have to do. This is what you're invested in, and this is what it costs the village. I mean, when the police department gets a 3% raise or whatever, and they have a union, and we got to deal with that. you know, we have to deal with that. We have to cut the best deal we have, and we might not be happy with that. But, you know, if we need a new car, we need a new car, two of them broke down. They're, you know, same situation you're in, only they're not $700,000, but we have to find the money that year. We can't go without, if you want police protection and you want to do the village, then you're gonna need them to have a vehicle, you know, and if so, yeah, I mean, you can, you know, relate that and bring it to the people and as an argument. We're just getting a rollover and we don't know, that's not where we should be. Should be, this year we want this and it's gonna cost us what, and we have a reserve too, and maybe some of that could be covered with that. There has to be a case made, and there has to be a little bit of legwork on your side. You've been here, you know that you know there's departments, like several departments that we're dealing with that are all doing the same thing, and we can't be investing, you know, all of our time in that because it's just not going to happen. So, I mean, if we get numbers and there's things you need, regardless if we go to district one way or the other. So there's two things first. If we want to go to a district, give us some numbers. Give us what the starting point's going to be, so we know. And not like, you know, it's gonna be a double your number, or it's gonna be 200,000. If you say it's gonna be the first year, this is where we're gonna go, or this is some kind of, somehow we bind you to the first crazy year where you can do whatever you want, and we know what that number is gonna be, and then after that, it's 2%, then people know what it's gonna cost. The other thing is, the things that you definitely need, and I was talking to Matt about this, and I'll take a walk through, we might need an engineer now, we might have to go over this stuff again, but you know, we should, you know, discuss what we need and get numbers for it. And, you know, we could use some help with that, because either that or we just have to go out and fire an engineer for $10,000 or whatever for, you know, more than that. So,
Is the 2% on top of the big year that you're allowed to have?
Yeah.
So that's your starting off point, is what you're doubling, it's 2% on that going forward.
Right, so if you're.
So that never changes.
Right, so the town who, so for the Garrison, how it worked, the town, when they picked the 5 commissioners, they set the Garrison Fire Department's first budget. The Garrison Fire Department didn't like it. So their next year was, well, it was 27%, it was a 27% increase, which is, you know, it's insulting. I mean, you know, no disrespect to them, but it's insulting. And then the 2% cap was on top of that big number. You know, and that's, you know, that's not the way we do business. We never had, in no real way, but yes, that is the answer.
I have a question. I know we're talking about sustainability, we're talking about a lot with numbers. My question has to do with your membership. 10 years down the line, I don't know how many new members you get every year. I know your members are aging out. You know, I just know what I see. So 10 years down the line, where do you see yourself in terms of new members coming in, old members aging out? How sustainable are you?
We'll be hanging on in 10 years.
Are we hanging on?
Yeah, we'll.
I mean, how many new members are you getting on a regular basis every year?
Not many.
Yeah.
Most people just
That's-
walk by, yeah.
Yeah, and that's the issue.
Most of them have the time or the effort
Well,
to go
that's-
through
yeah,
this all the
it's-
I
time.
think realistically 0 to 3 a year.
Right, it's
Yeah.
not the same village it
0 to
was
3.
20
No.
years ago.
Yeah, everyone's
because,
too
yeah,
busy.
everyone's working out of the village now. So, you know,
Yeah.
if you're not getting new membership and your membership is getting older, maybe you're here 10 years, I mean, you know, realistically,
Sure.
how much longer are we gonna be able to say we have a fire company or a fire district or any fire protection?
Have to.
I know we have to, but
Yeah, well,
that's easy to say,
Right.
No,
but
but this is part, I mean, this is part of the point is that we need to focus more on doing our job and not like arguing about the ventilation system.
well,
You know,
no,
bringing training into the firehouse
Well,
instead
yeah,
of
I mean-
people getting off a train at 7 o'clock and trying to get to Carmel by 7:30 for a 120-hour training course. Trying to do more stuff here, but.
Yeah, I mean, you have, you know, I would say most of the working people in the village of Cold Spring now are getting on the trains early in the morning and getting off at 8 o'clock at night. I know I did it. You know, on a good night I was getting off at 8 o'clock. I mean, they're not volunteering to be fired.
No, not at all.
So again, the question is, you know, and it's an important question.
Absolutely.
Before we get into whether or not you're gonna be a district, whether or not you're actually, it's worth all this discussion if 10 years down the line you don't have enough, you know, that we have to sort of combine with Garrison or North Highlands or somebody else to just keep ourselves going.
There's other thoughts and recruitment and retention things that probably don't need to be discussed tonight.
Well, no, I mean, you know,
But that we've discussed in-house and some of that involves improvements to the fire department. That would bring people in, you know, a place to exercise and stuff which we don't have, or showers and little things like that. But as far, I mean, just basically I was gonna just say what you were saying about the numbers and stuff. Is there a separate capital budget process for. We have a $120,000 budget. We need to put in a $50,000 ventilation system in the garage because of the cancer-related issues. And we're finding that firefighters maybe get cancer from the vehicle exhaust over the course of their life in the firehouse. So the smoke's gotta be ventilated. $50,000 project of a $120,000 annual budget is almost half. And
50, not
50,
50.
50, 50.
Well, if you
Could
tell
we
us,
apply, like, as a matter of capital project, which is not part of our 120, because you know what, next year we're not gonna need 170,000, because we needed a $50,000 item this year. So our operating budget normally would stay pretty close to the same, because we're very fiscally responsible. But times come up when there's large ticket items that maybe we can budget for separately as a capital
when you bring the budget
expense.
to Michelle, you need to give her both the operating budget and the capital budget.
Well, what often happens, I know, like, when I do my budget at my job, if this is my budget and I throw a $50,000 item in, they're gonna say, well, you got this much, so figure it out. But we know we need that 120 for operating, there's no change in that.
Yeah, we know
But
that.
here's another item that's 50,000, so is there a way that can be a capital line, in the village well, that's where the new garbage truck comes from, that's where the roof comes from on the village office?
It came
It's
from
a separate-
reserves.
Right.
Just as Fran said, as part of your budget, identify those that are not normal operating costs, they're capital improvements. And then we will look for a way to fund them, whether
So-
it comes from our reserve or we increase our budget, whatever.
And we
So
can apply
every-
for grants. The fire company could apply for grants to
Every-
identify a lot of these also.
That'd
Every
be great.
expense that we're kinda talking about
If you have a
tonight
grant. writer.
has nothing to really do with operational costs on the fire department level, it's
Mhm.
more of a building related issue,
And
which is your building and not
I'm
ours.
sorry, I, see, Dan, I don't
Right,
agree
no,
that
so
it's,
as-
that it's our, that it is a building issue. I see it as, you're saying that it was mandated by the state or the country, that the exhaust has to be, that the fumes have to be exhausted from the building.
And you wouldn't know that, no one expects you to know that.
But that's
There's
more of an
other things that-
operational question, that's more of an operational than a building maintenance issue.
Well, when
Because
Ed
we
says-
could rent it to someone else and they wouldn't need that, so.
Well, the front pad, the
Well, it's our
ADA compliant
responsibility because it's our
bathrooms,
fire company.
the ADA compliant bathrooms,
Mhm.
the health department approved kitchen
But
stuff.
your
That's
point is that
building-related issue.
there's a list of needs which we're going to get, and you're going to prioritize those for us, and we'll see what we can do. And you can be part of that discussion. There's no reason why, when we have our budget review sessions, you can't be a part of that. In fact, I think Michelle attempts to set up budget review sessions with every department, and that would include the fire company.
So for our annual budget application, you would wanna see us
Yes.
put in for
Yes, absolutely.
those types of
Yeah.
Yes,
ticket building.
yes.
Because then we can put it in the budget moving forward. If you don't give it to us in budget time, and then it's the middle of the year and we have X amount to spend, then it's harder to play with that, especially if it's earlier in the year and you don't know what's happening. You know what I mean? It's like, so, we've tried to impress that, to get the budget in earlier, and if it was, anyway, forget about the past. If you come to, when we have the budget season, and which is coming in February, I think she's gonna start beginning of February, we'll be contacting you guys, as we always do, for your budget, and put what you need in there, and if we have estimates, that's what everyone else does, the cost for whatever. So if you need that exhaust thing, and you could, I know this is legwork for you, but if you can get a couple companies to say this is what it would cost, then we know what the number is. I mean, and you know exactly what you need. If not, then you're gonna have to give us all the specs and everything, and we're gonna have to put it out to bid or put an RFP out or something, so that's gonna.
The same thing is true for your gear. If you need new gear on a rotating basis, I don't know, do the laws require that you get that gear is only valid for a 5-year period?
The shelf life, yeah.
And so, if you have a rotating, but a need for 20 sets of gear this year, 20 sets of gear next, that should be in your budget.
That's already.
That's in our
Operating
operating.
expenses.
Okay.
That's the
120.
firematic portion of what we do, that's what's in our operating.
Yeah, the things that we know have the life, we have
You've got
we
to
have planned for that. Yeah. Fran, if I may go back to your question, so in 10 years, we plan on still being here, and if we're not, we think that there should still be firehouse, substation of whoever's the next behind us for resident safety. So if it's a consolidation, if it's a contract, we also believe that there should be a village firehouse. So whoever's doing it should have staffing or whatever they're gonna do here. So, we are recruiting and trying to do recruitment retention every year, hoping that we have the people, but if not, we still want to try to solidify a fire station in the village for the village residents. And if it's not us, we apologize, but we're gonna try to do that and try to make it so if somebody comes after us, it's going to be in our quarters, protecting our people and not waiting for whoever set up somewhere else. So, that's the best we can answer that. But we annually, we get state money to do recruitment and retention, and it doesn't work, but, we're trying, and, we brought in somebody for next month, so, we are, we're working on it.
I think one of the, if I were to write the headlines for the fire company, I think one of the things that
They'll write it.
that I think the fire company doesn't get enough good press.
Okay.
On the front page is
Mhm.
hiker was rescued, blah, 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 blah. But if I roll that up into the annual report, how many people have you rescued from the mountains? How many traffic accidents have you been involved in? How many fires have you had to fight? How many rescues have you effected, whether it's on the river or flooding? You do very impressive things, and I think a roll-up of your accomplishments over the past 12 months would be a very positive start to any discussion about forming a district. Here's the good stuff that we do.
Okay, we'll get the meeting going. Welcome, everyone. First thing on our agenda is had a request call from fire department to discuss becoming a district. So you have a representative here that would like to talk to us on that.
Yeah, you want us to start? You mind if I sit up here, or you guys
You
want
can
to
sit wherever you like. Come up here and sit next to me. if you want.
Stand.
As long as I don't have to move.
You're right, there's no room. Yeah, so here's the thing, we
Matt, we're right
sent
here.
you, too much? Sorry, projector, used to be in the
You're a
classroom, Dave.
projector.
The only thing was to send you, we chatted before, me and Josh. But the idea was to just throw it out there to you guys. It wasn't like, I'm not here to convince you of anything, or not to convince you of anything. We just wanted to inform you, to be honest, of where we stood and where kind of the Coastal Fire Company will be, and kind of give you an idea of what needs to get done and what's going to happen to us in the future. So that was the discussion we had. I mean, if you don't want to be a district, okay, it's fine. It means really nothing. This could be a short meeting. If we haven't voted yes or no to become a district with the company, but we have some concerns about like finances and stuff that we're not sure that at the rate we're going in the future, it's going to be sustainable. So we were looking into some feasibilities. One of them is a district. And probably the biggest negative, one of the only negatives, is going to be the increase in taxes. And then our what I call our protection area, because I say district, then it's not the same. To our fire protection area, but everybody will be equal. And then after that, there's really no other negatives to it. Unless you have any that you think. I mean, losing control, maybe for us. We like the way things are run. We like being able to do pretty much whatever we want in terms of our interior stuff. And but we just don't think, especially after the purchase of this fire truck, maybe upgrading the boat, we need to replace things like bailout systems. I mean, we have preliminary numbers, and it's just a lot of money. And every year of being like, oh, we'll keep it the same, or it's 1%. Probably isn't feasible. I just wanted to kind of inform you, more or less, make it more public, I guess. That's all. It's not like, hey, we're coming down here to be a district, because I think if we really wanted to be a district, we would vote for it, and then come down and tell you, like, hey, we want to go to a district.
Right.
And that would be much bigger discussion, because I'd be like, well, where do you stand on it? How are we gonna go about this? What are you gonna do? What's gonna happen, but it's not,
Right.
it's up to you.
I know it's up to us, but I thought that you had discussed this and this was something you were gonna bring to us as far as being a district and the pros of that and whether, and where you saw that. I thought you had figured out the costs or.
There are costs, there's a significant amount of costs, and I.
No, I mean, so do you have like bottom line numbers or do you have,
Well-
I understand what the cost will be, pretty much. And that also depends on if you became a district, if you wanna build a firehouse somewhere or how high the
Yeah,
budget
I mean, that's gonna
goes.
be down the road. I mean, I don't think, and I'm sure, you guys would agree, that the firehouse, a new firehouse isn't the only reason to become a district. If anything, that's not. I mean, we have a firehouse now. Granted, it could use a significant amount of work, which, right, we're gonna talk about that as well.
Mhm.
But for the most part, no. I mean, I just wanted to see what you have to say about it. I mean, do you have any issues with us exploring the idea, and then if you don't, then we'll go a little bit further. I mean, we talked to our attorney. Our attorney says it's feasible financially based on the budget that they had for us to become a fire district. But again, permission is going to need to be granted from the village board.
Right. I mean, I'm not saying go further or do more research. I would have to be convinced for the exact reason you said, the cost to the residents. And
Well-
what that number would be and what that would look like and seeing, knowing what happened and transpired with Garrison then becoming a district and the costs and how much, the amount that their budget was raised from one year to the next.
Right.
And how that, went down, I would have concerns, so I would need to know, need to know numbers, I'd like to know if there is a fire, I think for the residents' information, whether there is a firehouse in the future, and that would be something you would go for right away, because it became a district, then that means the firehouse would be probably a rental or something, that wouldn't be included in your budget anymore. I mean, we wouldn't be paying for, what we're doing now, that would be split with the three municipalities, and they would have to agree on that also.
Well, if you built the firehouse, you would be experiencing the same problem we're having, which is not enough money to even fix up what we have. So where would the money come from for the new firehouse as well? It would have to come from the,
District. Yeah.
right, which, you would
Which
run-
again, it's going to increase that. If
Right.
that's your only issues, the taxes, then okay, but that's literally the only negative then. I
Well,
mean,
yeah, but
besides that,
The problem doesn't change. You'll have the same problem that we're having with the inability to pay for something like a new firehouse.
yeah, the
That whole
village,
option.
it would be spread across the district and not the village of Colesburg. So currently, you own the building. So the building needs renovations. We were supposed to get together. You're gonna stop up. You said, right, we'll walk you through. I'll give you some of these. The brick facade, the front apron, the parking area, the meeting room floor, the bathrooms need to be ADA compliant. Mention the kitchen, maybe renovating the kitchen. We need the diesel exhaust system, especially now with the new cancer bill that came out. So a new exhaust system runs about 50,000. That's gonna have to be installed. I don't think we wanna, they're supposed to have like decon, shower areas. There's just a lot more things that building is not suitable for, I guess, a firehouse anymore. So you're gonna find, if we're gonna be doing this again, I mean, OSHA, patch, NFPA standards, like, we kind of skirt around things, just so, and you know that. That's why you kind of leave us alone, because if you really went there, you'd be in a lot more trouble. We need exhaust systems to remove the stuff, and we don't have it. And we'd have to come down here and be like, I need 50,000 for the exhaust. You'd be, well, no, like usual. No, we do. It's part of actually, OSHA and NFPA. You don't have a choice. So again, you being your building, I was trying to ease around it. You're going to be paying for it one way or another. You may want to think about trying to spread the cost and give the responsibility to a board of commissioners, which again, I don't want to lose the board of commissioners coming in and telling us what to do. That's not fun for us. And you know that. I mean, we have a little bit more leeway without them, which we wouldn't. But we're trying to do what's best for the future of the company.
Well, it depends who the commissioners are.
Yeah, but it's a lot more responsibility. I mean, they take classes. There's a certain, standard that they're gonna hold. And again, they're elected. You don't really elect kind of the board of the Coastal Fire Company, so.
Matt,
Go ahead.
you just identified, a list of upgrades that are necessary, dictated by law, I'm assuming, that would be required for the current firehouse. I apologize, I've not heard of some of them before. I assume that you've got estimates on all of them. Could we get that as a set of materials?
Yeah, I mean, we could help you out and try to give you some of the ideas. Some of this, again, it's one of those things again where like I don't know what the repair costs. You guys would know. Repair costs to the front apron. You know what I mean? We're here to fight fires. I'm not looking to be a contractor or do all this. It's not our building. It's not our responsibility. That's what stinks. I'm looking for like, I'm coming to you with
Well,
this.
What is
some
yours?
of the responsibility does fall on you and some is on us for me, but if we don't know that you need X,
An
Y, or
exhaust
Z,
system.
then how are we gonna help you, or where do we go from that, or how do we do that? So, and it goes back to kind of when we started, and when I started, and we were asking for budgets. I mean, the rest of our departments list stuff that they need and give it to us every year. You guys just were rolling over a number, and we asked you to kind of be more
He
specific.
gave you the budget though, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
but just kind of like,
Well, do you? Well,
but the way our other departments work is like, if Bugsy needs a new truck or whatever,
Right.
because the other one broke or whatever, he will, that'll be part of his budget. There'll be a wish list too, and it's the way all budgets work. When I was with the school too, it's like, departments would come up with their wish list, and that's what you guys should do. And in that, instead of just rolling it over, you say, this is what we need. We need,
Yeah.
whatever some of the things that you just say.
Yeah. No, I know.
And then that would increase your budget. And we're not saying we wouldn't increase your budget from what it is, and it most likely needs to be increased, but it has to be increased for a reason. We have to see the reason for it. If you guys say, if it's $120,000 now, and you guys have to put a $40,000 system in that's needed by law, and you give it to us in budget time, we can discuss it and then adjust. We're not saying we're holding you to the number. We were asking you during the budget seasons for you to come up with, your budget, and what you need is part of that. And if there's 3 or 4 things that are gonna be expensive but are needed there, then we need to know that and discuss it. I'm not asking you to go get it.
No, we're actually most of the time doing you a favor, because you probably wouldn't really want to know how to be as compliant as we need to be, because
Right.
it's not feasible in terms of actually economics here with
You're not
the
doing us a
taxpayer.
favor if you're gonna come in now and say, hey, you guys are gonna get in trouble because we don't have these things done. I mean,
Right.
we should know these things. I mean, we may get pissed, we may say we don't have the money, but we need to know.
Right, we're not
this
coming
is
in
what
here
the
to
law
say
says.
anything. I came in to ask you how you felt about the district, and just seeing that if you would rather almost resolve yourselves of, I guess, I don't know, I mean, the responsibility of having to even figure these out. I mean, if you still want the responsibility of feel free to stop by too. I mean, it goes both ways. I don't see many people knocking on the door to come visit me.
Matt, can you
We don't have
provide,
liaisons or anything, but no one shows up. Now we're here saying that I'm
can
not
you,
forcefully bringing these down. I
can you
emailed.
provide us with
2
a
months
list
ago.
of those changes that are necessary to the
Sure.
building, both the exterior and the interior? And if you could provide them in a prioritized manner, those things which puts.
I sent that a while ago. And and was it the beginning of the year? I could find the date, but I don't wanna have to do it again and embarrass it. I sent a list of all the things that we were gonna do, the things that we needed in a letter the first time. I don't know, I know it was probably addressed. I'll find it and I'll bring it back down and re-forward it. Because I know I sent that, because we talked about it, about some of the things that needed to get done, and one of the correspondence was sent. Whether you saw it, I have no idea, but I can tell you for sure that I sent it down in the beginning. When we started this the first time, about what we need and everything, but again, I'll do it again if you want.
That'd be terrific. Now, if we go back to the topic of a district versus not a district, I think I have a couple of questions that would help me better understand
Okay.
the concept. What is the coverage area that is being proposed for the district?
It's the same coverage area that we currently have.
Okay. Then from a resident's point of view and from a fire company point of view, what are the pros and cons to staying as you are versus becoming a district?
Well, the only negative for all of us, pretty much in the room, would be the increase in taxes.
But,
That's a negative.
so, sorry, the increase in taxes comes as a result of the,
Going to the district, yeah.
so what are the increase in taxes that are caused by going to a district?
What are they caused by? It's gonna cost
Right.
more money.
What are the expenses that cause it to cost more money?
Laws, things that being up to code. How about that? To meet the codes and standards and the laws, again, you don't wanna know. It's easier for you to
Please
turn a
do-
blind eye to the firehouse because.
Please don't say that we wanna turn a blind eye.
Yeah, we are definitely not turning a blind eye.
But what you've just said is that the current firehouse is not up to code. Bringing the current firehouse up to code, seems to me it doesn't matter whether it's a fire company or a district. Those are changes that need to be made. Am I correct in that? That going to.
Sure. Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
I guess, 'cause,
Okay,
yeah.
so if getting the building up to code is independent of district or no district, what are the other expenses that are caused by becoming a district?
There's gonna be other costs to it. It's the same thing. So you wanna just throw the building aside then? There's gonna be probably the apparatus issues that we talked about, meeting the standards for having the first due engine. There's gonna be costs with even like, I believe, the treasurer and stuff like that.
Okay.
There will also be, is there any other
So-
costs that you could think of off the top of your head?
So,
Rent for a building is around $500.
Right,
I'm
because it's
sorry.
not gonna be our building anymore. We're not gonna get it
Okay,
for
so-
a premium rental fee. It's
so
gonna be
rent
more.
would be one additional cost. What,
You have to hire a treasurer?
Yes, you
Yeah.
bylaw, you have to have a secretary treasurer that would,
Yeah.
like the village, somebody that has to be legally binding and
so,
responsible to
Yeah.
the comptroller, and
So-
not towards not just towards, the fire department itself, so there's the
Right.
checks and balance system.
do you also need to hire, does the district also have to have a paid secretary?
It's usually they'll have a secretary treasurer in one, combine
Okay.
the two into one. And
Does,
you get to, it's your choice what you pay that position.
the village or the district?
The district.
Okay.
Like yourself, you pay, you
Yeah.
choose how you pay.
Does the, becoming a district cause the district to have an independent audit of the district and of the fire company?
Yeah, so what happens is it's a separate taxing entity, just like the village or the town.
Yeah.
So they would nearly be the same exact rules, they would have to, the district would be held to the same standard as the village or the town. So almost all, except for whatever is directly attributed to a fire district.
Okay, now today, with the memo, with the agreement that we have with Phillipstown and Nelsonville, Phillipstown taxes the residents for the fire company. The village doesn't have a separate tax, it's embedded in our budget. Phillipstown has a separate tax that they collect for those properties that are within the coverage of the fire company. When you go to a district, does the taxing authority change? So specifically, would Nelsonville still bill, Nelsonville would not?
However, I believe the town would collect the taxes through the town, the way they collect it for, I guess, like the school. So the district would collect the taxes equally amongst anybody that's in that fire tax district. So you as a village resident would get a fire tax, a separate tax bill, as would Nelson and as would the town, and they would all be equal, they would all be the same tax.
So,
Based on per thousand
Yes.
with what,
So you have 3 municipalities that pay roughly 3 different fire taxes, if you will, right? And so what happens is.
actually only 2 that pay fire taxes. The Cold Spring residents don't pay a separate fire tax.
Right, it's like,
It's embedded in the budget.
correct, it's the
but they're
municipal.
still being taxed at fire service.
Yes,
So you have 3 different things for 3 municipalities paying pretty much 3 different taxes. Now it would be all equal. The 3 municipalities would just pay one straight number. Now, again, I don't want my tax going up either. I mean, Nelsonville, mine are gonna double. with that fire tax. It's not going to be, economically, it's gonna, I have to present it to you. I would probably vote for it because of what's better for the fire company. But at the end, I'm gonna be like, man, this is not good for me.
Why would you just said that your tax would double.
Yeah,
You live.
fire protection tax.
Oh, you live in Nelsonville now.
Right, but that's a personal matter. That doesn't
No,
matter.
no,
Just
no,
stay
I
focused.
was-
Right, I mean, I don't
I
understand. It
was
doesn't matter
just-
where I live.
When
Just
you-
keep going.
I was just thinking that you live.
Well, don't look at me look at me as a president, and then this way you'll think of me as here
So
and
now
not
what-
somebody
you
else
have-
on
And
the
then you
street.
can't bring me as
Yeah,
a resident
yeah,
into
like
the
they give me
conversation
into
and us
just-
only be able to look at you in
So
one.
Yeah.
what you've just floated
Disassociation.
the idea that taxes will go up by a factor of 100%. They would double.
Perhaps
So-
for maybe Nelsonville for me. Yeah.
So what numbers go? What are the calculations that went into your statement that taxes would
The
go
the
up?
attorney. We didn't do anything. It's the attorney. The people that we asked to look at some of the things basically thought that the numbers would be significant. I mean, the current districts they said covered approximately $260,905,800, $1 million, whatever. Let's just say, and it was $1.15 per thousand could produce a budget, right? It was 300,000. Again, we have stuff, we have numbers. We guess we could give them to you. We start the legwork, but again, it's up to you.
Well, I mean, no, it's not up to us. If you want to become a district, we need the numbers. I'm not gonna do the legwork for you. I'll tell you right now, I'm not gonna go out and figure out how much you want, some number that I don't know, and see how that's divided among 3 different municipalities and how we're gonna determine that. If you have a plan and how that's done and someone's come up with numbers and you present that to us, then we can take a look at it. And if and it means your budget goes up to $300,000 or $400,000, we'll look at that, you know, but you know, from where we sit right now, we know what your budget is, and we only get the numbers that you give us for your budget line, so, you know, if you want to become a district and you'd like us to, you know, visit that,
They would or no?
then we should have the numbers. You should be able to get those numbers. You should
Yeah.
have a budget which you know you're gonna want or need, and you're gonna need, and then how you're gonna break that down, what percentage is gonna go for everyone equally, and what that number's gonna look like. That way, you know, we're out to protect our residents, and we also are out to, you know, have fire protection, so, you know, I think that's a discussion we can have, but we need to have some numbers and know what we're talking about. We can't just say, well, sure, that sounds like a good idea, it might be 250% more there, or 10% here, and what does that equal per person? Does that mean I'm gonna pay, like as a resident in the village, you know, another $1,000 a year or something? I don't know, I'm just.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
just-
it's gonna be, right, because North Highlands, use them as examples, 250 per thousand. So you can use that as a preliminary number, because it wouldn't be more than that anyway, because you wouldn't go above that.
How can you say that?
Well, because then you might wanna contract out with them for
So-
fire
no, so-
protection,
how
or,
how can you say that going to a district would not be more than $2.50 per thousand? You have some numbers that and what we're grasping at is what are the numbers so that the residents of the village can understand what movement to a district means to them financially, and what movement to a district means to them from from a safety point of view.
Right.
We're looking at both sides.
I would ask you, Matt, if
Go ahead.
you're, as you're calculating these numbers to come up with, to say what you need for a district, don't include the things that you say you need for the firehouse now. Those
Okay.
should not be part of the calculation for the district. Those are things you need whether you're a district or whether you're a company. So they shouldn't be, I mean, those are things that you need to present to us, and we will work it through our budget. Not all in one year, obviously, but we will, you know, we'll get through what we need. So as you're calculating what you need, you know, the rent and the treasurer and the secretary, other than that, I don't know what else is.
And I think a big ticket item, and one of the reasons why North Highlands, if we wanna use them as an example, is higher, is because they have a $5 million, you know, a mortgage that they're paying off. So if you don't have that and you're paying nothing for a place right now, and you wanna have a new firehouse, and you have to buy property or whatever, that should be in the calculations, and we should present that to the residents and say, this is what's needed, this firehouse is no longer usable, and this is why, this is what it's gonna cost for a new one, this is where we're gonna put it, and this is what it's gonna cost you.
which raises the question, in the fire district, is there a legal requirement for where the firehouse is located? It could be located in Beacon.
Within the district,
Within the district.
yeah,
It has to be within the district.
yes.
So that's Nelsonville, Cold Spring, or portions of Phillipstown.
Yeah, or whatever, our
Yeah.
fire protection area, is again what I call it, 'cause-
Okay.
Like currently we have to be in the village,
Right.
because we're a village.
right.
Right, right, okay.
I would also encourage you, you know, you were saying there's this list of stuff that is mandated that you have to have and that you have to do, and these are improvements that have to be done to the firehouse. I'd like to see a comprehensive list of that is prioritized. You know, I guess I'd rather know up front than get hit with something later, you know, that we all of a sudden have to scramble to try to find a way of funding. You know, more information is actually better than less. Even though, you know, we're gonna look at this list and say, okay, this is most important and this is most important, and yes, we'd like to do these other things at the bottom of the list, I still wanna know what those things on the bottom of the list are. So that, you know, maybe in another way we can do that, but I'd really
Again,
like to see
I'll
a
find the letter that we sent, we
comprehensive
did
list.
send stuff, I mean, I don't know why it wasn't addressed, we sent it the first time, and we wrote it up and sent it, and I'll find it, I guarantee you, and I'll send it back again, and show you the stuff that we need, I mean, it's not, it's, like I said, just stop by, I mean, we know where, you come speak with
So
us.
has to go to the next step of what you need, like you're talking about turnout gear, which we know nothing about, and I didn't know anything about until I started talking to you guys. So the state requires you to do this every, whatever, however long it has to be changed out. We don't know what those are. If you say you have, this is a big expense to us, and you put on a list, turnout gear, that's not gonna mean anything. That's good that's on a list, but we need to know what that is. If you have to have some type of an exhaust system for your diesel, I have no idea what that is. We don't know what that is cost-wise, so that could be on a list, but again, that means nothing to us. And I'm not, you know, I'm not,
Yeah, because I wish you took a deeper interest in
it is
probably
a
one of
deep-
your
Why not? I
most
think you
important
should-
entities,
I
because I
think,
just feel like.
Matt, you keep saying these
That's
things that
what
are
I
kind
mean.
of,
I mean, I
kind of
think we feel-
insulting, actually. I mean,
I think we
I
feel the
do
same
care.
way.
Yeah, but you're asking for stuff for your department to make it better, and you're coming to us and you want us to do all the work. You're just gonna
Can't
give
get
us a
snow
list?
removed off the sidewalk for us. Whose responsibility is the snow?
Okay,
Neighbors
I'm not
complaining
gonna- I'm not
about the
gonna get- I'm
snow,
not gonna- we're not gonna
but
get
that's a
into that.
simple, very basic
It
thing.
is,
that,
and in the
hey,
past, people from the fire company in years gone by would shovel that.
it's
And I
not
could
true.
throw
Been
that
there
back at
20
you.
years.
Okay, so Matt, you made, you said at the beginning that it may not be sustainable. What might not be sustainable?
The meeting these basically codes and trying to ensure that at 120,000 or whatever we get overall.
So it's not sustainable at
Financially, we talked about
$120,000.
that. Yeah, I mean, we can't put 25,000 away for a truck every year and think that we're gonna meet NFPA standards. It's just not, it doesn't work. I mean,
So what you're saying is what is not sustainable is the ability for the fire company within its current budget to pay for the mandated
sure, that's
upgrades that
part
are
of it,
necessary.
yeah,
That's part of it.
yeah.
What else is part of it?
Well, you're saying the building's not sufficient to it either anymore.
I want him to answer that, if
Right.
you don't mind.
Okay.
Dan, do you have something back?
I-
It's just like in circles.
From the firefighter standpoint, the benefits of forming a district is that we don't have to deal with this stuff. That the firefighters and the fire company can just worry about protecting the citizens, preparing to respond to disasters and fires and do our job, and not have to worry about a state mandate on a ventilation system. Having a board of fire commissioners elected from our fire protection area who would receive training from the state would be informed of that kind of stuff, and it would be their problem to worry about, instead of us getting this information, coming down, having meetings, coming to the
Right.
board, educating you about stuff that maybe we don't
Right.
know that much about because we're just concerned about fighting fires and not what kind of ventilation
So
system.
right now in Nelsonville's, or not Nelsonville, Garrison's budget, their commissioners, the fire company doesn't come up with a budget and give it to the commissioners who then review it?
They do, but mostly it's like operating expenses as far as like we need new turnout gear and stuff. And the district commissioners worry about, being compliant with ADA, bathrooms. And then we need 3 sinks in the kitchen if we you need a health department permit for food or whatever. That's not the problem of the firefighters and the fire company or the chief. You know, that's the fire district itself.
And the commissioners, when you say turnout gear, they need to understand that where yourselves, you wouldn't, you shouldn't, you kind of can't. So, you know, so instead of this back and forth, the chief would say to the commissioner, say we need turnout gear in the exhaust system, and the commissioner needs to know that, and it's his job to figure it out, where for you, it's not, it's just one more thing that you don't have any knowledge of because you're a village board, you're not a fire commission.
We're just a microcosm of all the problems that the village deals with on a daily basis.
Okay, so
With fire commissioners being elected and having equal representation from throughout the fire district, their only concern is the fire district. And that's the only, they don't have to worry about the highway department or the plows or the police department. It's just fire protection and what needs to be done. And it takes that part away from municipalities. And the community gets to vote for who those commissioners are.
So the point that you're making, which is a good point, is that with the creation of a fire district, the Board of Commissioners, which is initially appointed by the village board, and is then
And the town.
elected, pardon me,
The town would have to appoint them.
pardon me,
The town would have to appoint them.
why?
No.
Because, yes, a village has its own fire department. So
Yes.
you can have village fire commissioners,
Uh-huh,
but if you're gonna have a joint fire district, which would be, 2 villages in a town,
yes.
legally, the town would have to set it up.
It's not a match against like who gets to appoint whoever, but
Right.
in the initial step, it's like, hey, let's appoint these responsible people to get the ball rolling, and there's gonna be an election
Okay,
the
so,
following year, whatever the case.
so coming back to the point that I was making, is that with the creation of a fire district, the fire commissioners, who are appointed originally and then elected, I think on a 5-4-3-2-1 basis, would be responsible for making the decisions, not in terms of the operational budget, but in terms of making sure, ensuring that the fire district was adhering to all of the state and country laws related to fire districts, is that correct?
Correct, but they also approve the operational budget as well. The budget for operations has to be submitted by the chief to the commission.
Okay,
And the same thing, they go through and they say, well, what do you need this for? And then they approve it. I will say from, I guess, both sides of the coin, I feel that it will be a little more expensive than what we currently pay overall, because there's added expenses with the district. But the benefits of the district in the long run could be equal representation throughout the community, or a potential firehouse down the road. And the fact that instead of sitting here at a village board meeting on our drill night, we could be at the
Right.
firehouse training for our next emergency. And we don't have to worry about it, because most of our meetings really revolve around issues with the building and stuff like that that's beyond our control.
okay,
Thank you, Dan.
The unsustainability issue is kind of negative on both of our sides. You know, there's under 1,000 tax parcels. And for you to renovate or replace the firehouse, if you were to do it through the village, it's,
sorry,
I'm
there
sorry.
are over 1,000 tax parcels.
okay, even better, so let's do it.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry, that's
There
fine.
are 800 plus in the village, there are over 300 in Nelsonville.
Oh, I'm just talking
You're
about
talking about the
current
village.
system we work
Yeah.
under now, us, the fire company and the village board. There's under 1,000 tax parcels within the village itself, so it's 800 tax parcels.
Yeah.
So if you decided that you wanted to renovate, you would pass it on to the village taxpayers.
No, I'm sorry, no, we would pass it on to Nelsonville, the Nelsonville.
No, you wouldn't. You would try to through a contract. If you had to fix any village building tomorrow,
Mhm.
the taxpayers of Cold Spring would have to pay that.
I agree
Then
with
hopefully you would be able to sustain
I-
that through the
I
contract.
agree with you when we're talking
Yes.
about a village building,
Correct, so the firehouse is a village building at this point in time.
right,
So in order for you to renovate it, you have to collect taxes to do that.
yes,
So like right now, we have that healthy fund balance that, is out there, and we have earmarked, our vehicles are anywhere from 2,000, well, the boats, our air compressors are 94, anyway, so there's over $1 million of things that we need to purchase in the next 5 to 10 years. So for us, we don't know that we can replenish our funds to buy our next sets of vehicles next time around, and yourself to bring that building up to certain codes would cost a little money over time. So the problem becomes that sooner or later, our budgets will have to mesh. And when we need a new vehicle, we may have to ask you, and you may have to bond it. So what happens is later down the road, because as you know, everything becomes increasingly crazily expensive. We are not going to completely be able to sustain, and then we're going to have to ask you for more money. And as you try to fix the building, you will have to create more money. So the unsustainability becomes is that as we go down the road together, either parallel or not, it becomes very expensive. So that sooner or later, the taxpayer is going to see more from us. And then for you to get your money back, you do have to fight with 2 other taxing entities. And if they choose to say no, we don't know how that works.
So 2 points I would make is that when, I suspect that when we need to make an upgrade to the building for the benefit of the fire company, where the specific need is unique to the fire company, I think we would make that argument to apply it against
absolutely.
all parcels in the
All parcels,
district.
yes, absolutely. And we
You would support
we
that?
absolutely support that.
Yes.
The problem we have is that then it becomes, as you have seen with at least one of the other 2 municipalities, they don't feel like paying for it. You guys go down this year-long fight, and I don't think you want to sustain that. And again, you may enjoy that. But if it's a taxing entity within itself, then it's just evenly split out. And to be very clear, we haven't, as a body, we can't decide what's best for us. We struggle like you are, and we struggle with what's going to happen to us and what's going to happen to the taxpayer. So we're not coming down and saying we need to be a district, because we know we're taxpayers. Like if you live in Langate Road, this is a home run for you, because you are most likely at the $2 per thousand rate. So you're going to get a tax decrease because it's uneven. The village resident gets the best deal because it's through your general municipal tax, and it's spread evenly. So you get the best deal. If you did per thousand, the village resident has the best deal. So a village resident is going to see the tax increase, not because we're going to go along with Garrison, because we would absolutely 100% make a promise to everybody that whatever the budget that we create, the first one, will be within 2% or the tax cap of the next budget.
Well, it has to be by
It has
law.
to be.
Well, not in your first budget, it does not. That's why Garrison got away with 27%.
Not the first budget, but all subsequent
Right.
budgets.
So what we would do is we would guarantee you and make it a point of reference that we won't do it unless our next budget won't be 27%. So we're not looking. We're just looking to potentially stay on track in the future for all sides. And this is probably not the best deal for the village resident today. But God forbid it becomes really, are we having, the Cold Spring Fire Department has not charged a taxpayer for a fire truck ever since 1896. They've never bonded a fire truck.
But all that money is the money that you have in your reserve. Some of that money is from the budget. It's
Have you
excess.
bonded a $500,000 fire truck
What's
ever?
that?
Never bonded a whole
No,
truck.
Right now, the amount of money that you have in your reserves.
Yes.
It's enough for a
million
truck.
Or whatever. For a truck, whatever it's
Sure,
for. I'm
sure.
not questioning that.
Yep.
But all that money wasn't all raised by the fire company on, from the fire company
No,
through fundraising.
not at all.
No, the money came from taxpayers and excess money every year.
Yeah, every year from
Right.
1896. If we run out of money,
Right.
our next truck is going to be around $750,000,
Yeah.
which will leave us not enough for the next new truck.
Right.
The next new truck is $750, and we only have $500.
Right.
Where are we going to get the money? You're going to have to bond $500, and
Right.
one bond shows up a lot more than over the time of just nickel and diming the taxpayer. Sooner or later, we're not going to have a fund balance to buy anything.
But
of
when you're talking
cost.
about things that you'd like to take off your plate and just deal with fire company issues, the money that is there should be run through the village. the $1 million, the money that's there.
You know, it's crazy.
No,
You know
it-
why that's crazy?
No, it isn't crazy, because then if you come to, well, let me just explain why I don't think it's crazy, and you can say why it's
Okay,
crazy,
that's fair,
all right?
that's fair,
I'm not
that's fair,
saying you're
that's
not
fair,
right
that's
or I'm
fair.
right. I'm just
Fair is
saying,
fair.
if the money came through us and you said you gave us a budget every year, and you didn't include the money you needed for a fire truck,
Mhm.
we would have to know that, that we would have to be aware of that, and we are aware of stuff, because we ask all of our departments to give us, an upgrade, an update on the machinery. Is that Bobcat gonna last 2 years? When we have to figure that out, and Michelle's really good at that, and so we would work on that. So if all that money, besides the money for your fire truck, came to us, we would have to worry about that. We would have to come up with that money. We would have to find that. We would have to put money aside for that or whatever. And that money, whatever it is, I don't know what the excess is over what you actually spend a year that goes into this reserve fund. That money wouldn't be taxed. We wouldn't have to tax people on that right
Right.
now.
But
We would
our-
in the future
Correct.
on a bond.
Correct, but in our position, the last thing we wanna do is say, in 5 years, we need a $750,000 fire truck. You're going to say, why so much? Can you get it cheaper? And you'll put out the bid, not us. So what we have always done is we've created the fund balance, so when it comes time to buy, we can purchase meeting the needs of the fire company without putting the village board or the taxpayer at a disadvantage. And that can't sustain. So the village board, not this one or two later, will be buying
Right.
or helping us purchase equipment, which will then be hey, we need to know. And then, you know yourself, if the money's not there, the answer is no. If they said the Bobcats next year and you say, well, you have to wait another year, they have to wait another year. So the way it operates now,
That's different sorry to cut you off, that's different than the fire company, which is an essential. We can get away with a Bobcat. We can't get away with another fire
No, but
truck
you-
if it's required by
but you would
law.
have to,
We would have to find the money.
But you would also have to try to hold us off because it's not easy to find money in a village.
I don't know, how would we hold you
We have two
off?
fire trucks, right?
What?
One breaks, still
Right.
got another one.
If you have to have one though, I don't see a
I work
board
you're right.
not putting that off.
No, I know, but again, it's taxpayers' money. It's a lot of money to find for people.
It is.
But either way, if it's a district or this, we're gonna have to find that money.
But you would, as a village fire department, you would have to find it first and then try to get it out of the other two municipalities, which is at a disadvantage for you. Because now you have to fight them. You saw the last fight. It went a year before anybody.
Well, we
they
didn't have
couldn't
much
get
backing.
funded.
Okay. If I take the estimate that right now, I believe the funding for the fire company is in the range of $120,000. Is that your understanding?
Out of your budget, or out of all three districts.
Right.
Out of all three
Oh,
districts.
141,718.
So
Yeah.
if I use Matt's number, that number's gonna double.
Oh.
So.
Okay, so that number was an estimate because the lawyer didn't know our position.
Yeah,
So
I'm just, bear with me.
Okay.
So I'm gonna double it to 250,000. Just bear with me.
Sure.
And that would then be the budget for, the first budget that you go forward with.
Correct.
And after that, every budget will be capped at 2%.
You are legally allowed to do the next one at whatever you need,
Well, right now,
and
you're
then
at
it would
one,
be
right now it's
capped.
at 120.
Correct.
So let's say the first budget that you go forward with is at 250. You've doubled the budget to 250. So that's the first year, that's a free year, you can go up as much as you want.
Which we
and then-
wouldn't, but yes,
And from then on, it's 2%.
capped, like the
Right,
rest.
capped
Correct.
2%.
Mhm.
So the maximum amount of increase that the district would be able to obtain is, what, 5,000? An increase of 5,000?
If that's what the 2% comes, yeah, sure.
Okay, so you're limited to a $5,000 increase year to year to year.
Correct.
Is that sustainable?
Yes,
As a
because
fire
the
district.
big ticket items would be like they would be bonded now in public referendum. So if we were to need a fire truck or a firehouse,
Right.
it would have to go to public referendum. So the public we can't, a fire district can't just say, we're building a new firehouse and you're paying for it. It is it's the same exact rules that the town or the village would have to play by. So if we wanted to buy a new fire truck and a new firehouse and all these things, we cannot. We have to stay the tax cap with the the day-to-day operations as we do now.
Well, what happens when you have to buy the truck by law? And you know, you still have to have that money, people will have to pony up the
Or they
money to
vote
buy
on,
the thing.
they
They
vote
can
on.
vote no.
Yes, but
They can
then
vote.
don't you have to, can you operate with a truck that's not proper? I mean, what happens to the fire company, you're just done that day?
So you operate with what you have and pray no one gets hurt, because the NFPA is a standard, right?
Okay.
So
So it's not a law.
it's
not a law.
it's not a law.
Okay.
But you
So I
don't
was,
wanna
I was
go to,
thinking it was a law.
you don't wanna go to court disobeying
It's
a
not law
standard.
in court.
You know, because they can't sell you a non-NFPA compliant fire truck. You can't buy one.
I use them.
You can't. And we could run one all we wanted. But if somebody got hurt, the family gets to say, you know, why is this truck not compliant? So, you know, it would be, and that 250 number,
Shut you down necessarily.
we don't, right, the tax, people could shoot us down as you could, and you know, they probably wouldn't, and you wouldn't either, but we wouldn't, like, if we're at 120, we don't need to be, there's not $100,000 extra in the district. That number that he used at $1.50 per thousand for a $300,000 budget, we don't need a $300,000 budget. That was just a number that our lawyer gave us to say.
I was just using a.
Sure. So I mean, you know, we could start at 75 cents per thousand. You know, if that's how the actual numbers worked out. But as you say, can't go forward without actual numbers. These are numbers too.
In a district